And welcome to day 156 of reading the Bible through in a year, a little bit each day. Today we are on Proverbs 7, 8, and 9. So let's get into it. Proverbs 7 continues on the theme set a couple chapters ago with warning against the adulteress. The first 5 verses feel like a bit of an aside, especially if you're reading 5, 6, and then 7 in a row. All of a sudden you kind of have this break and it just says, "My son, keep my words and treasure up my commandments with you. Keep my commandments and live. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call insight your intimate friend, to keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words." And so this admonition to listen and embed these things, let these teachings be like truth that is so close. It's like a blood relative that lives with you and that you see every day, that is part of your life when you get up and have breakfast, when you leave the house, every part of you, there's no way to detach from it. Let the wisdom of these words be just like that. Do not let adultery or this lustful fulfillment of unrighteous sexual activity become something that you engage in. Instead, pursue righteousness. And sort of a call back to chapter 5, verse 15. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. Should your springs be scattered abroad, and etc. The contrast here is these are the things that will destroy you if you pursue them, versus being faithful and righteous and making the appeal to the wisdom and proper design, the righteous act of staying engaged in the only sexual activity being between a man and woman who are married, rather than entering into all of the things of the adulteress, which kind of describes out here a little bit, a lot of metaphor there. But then at the end it says, "And now, sons, listen to me, be attentive to the words of my mouth. Let not your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray into her paths, for many a victim has she laid low, and all her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is the way to Sheol, going down to the chambers of death. This will lead to your death and destruction. This will lead to your corruption and the end of you, to pursue this type of thing." And that is a powerful warning to us. And now here's the thing where chapter 8 and 9, wisdom is spoken of personified. Obviously, it's not talking about like, hey, go find that wise woman who's going to tell you the right things. But instead, the idea of following the wisdom, which again, like laid out at the beginning of Proverbs, is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Trusting in the Lord and following his ways above all other ways is wisdom. And personified as the woman who calls you into the right path. The adulteress and all of these things about adultery are in a similar kind of metaphor here, where it's not specifically only talking about adultery as with the woman that would, ensnare a young man, but instead it's overall saying pursuing unrighteous things like that is the opposite of pursuing the ways of wisdom, and specifically with how destructive, unrighteous sexual activity of any kind, replacing godly connection with unrighteous, unwise connections like that. And in our day and age, we have a plethora of things that Solomon had not even dreamed of yet as he wrote these things. The same thing holds true. Pursue righteousness and don't chase after these things outside of the way that God called us to and designed for us to. Here in chapter 8, we still have this call to wisdom, and again, a kind of reprise of, or a going back to and kind of expanding on now, this idea of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And now here in verse 13, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the hatred of evil, pride and arrogance, and the way of evil, and perverted speech I hate." And so it's saying all of these things that lead away from God are something to be not just rejected, not just like, I'm not that into it, but absolutely despised and pushed away. that we should flee from them or stand against them rather than just allowing them to seep in and corrupt us. That to fear the Lord is to turn away from and despise those things that would corrupt and tempt us into unrighteous ways of living. And so again, as we continue on into 8, we have these calls to what it looks like to live according to wisdom. And then in 9, the way of wisdom. Whoever is wise, follow these ways. And then again, back to the fear of the Lord, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. And that follows a couple of true pieces of like, the fool and really the evil or immoral person will despise wise correction, but a wise person will receive it well. And so that's, again, not meant to be an absolute, but as a general rule, when we offer correction, we can find that a wise person, somebody who is willing to fear the Lord and pursue his ways, will receive that correction and allow that to guide them along on that path of righteousness. And somebody who is evil will tend to reject godly feedback and rebuke and direction. At the same time, as we offer those things, that can be a filter. If we offer godly correction, we go, wait a second, this person is completely rejecting it. They are, and maybe not as a holistic, write off permanent label to their life, but if they reject wise counsel, you go, okay, this is foolish. This is foolishness. You are acting foolish, or you are acting wise. Look at how, even though you in general do not live well, you received this correction that was godly, and that was a wise moment where you did fear the Lord and turn to him properly, even if that wasn't, par for the course in the way you've lived. And so again, wisdom calls us to pursue righteousness, and that foundation for that is in fearing and revering the Lord and pursuing his ways. If we don't do those things, then as we have at the end of 9 here, the woman folly is loud. She's seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat on the highest places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. In a time when we have so much social media and so much craziness, so much division that is based in that kind of thing, the loudest and craziest, most controversial perspectives get the most play. That activates the algorithm. Outrage causes interaction. People, no, I don't like that. And you dislike, or you angry emoji, or whatever it is, you comment and, keyboard warrior your way through an argument. And that activates the algorithm, keeps things going, keeps it in front of it. The internet loves, and the modern world loves controversy and drama like that. That's not to say that we should never speak up, but we should exhibit righteousness in that and recognize that the things that people are loudest about, there's a good chance that there's foolishness and unrighteousness and a lack of wisdom in those things. So to dive into that and just agree with whoever's shouting the loudest, craziest, angriest thing, there's a good chance that if they have to shout it that loud, that angry, that aggressively, it's probably foolish. That's biblical. It's probably foolish. Wisdom gently calls us to righteous places of calm and peace. Folly, foolishness, is loud and boisterous and calls us to a place that feels right, feels good for a moment, and it leads to death, just like giving into sexual temptation. And so foolishness in all things, as well as sexual temptation on a deep, heartfelt integrity level, corrode us and lead us to death. Let us be wise in the way that we respond to these things, that we evaluate these things, and let us always come back to the fear of the Lord leading us into wisdom, and see where that takes us, because that filter to start back in that place of worship and reverence of the Lord deep down inside, and then see how that works out in front of us, that changes everything. I'd love to hear what questions, comments, and thoughts you have as you read this. So make sure to drop those in the video or the Bible app, and let's talk about that. Keep reading, keep praying, keep seeking the Lord through his word. Be rad for Jesus.